Alright, here goes. I never thought I'd be that guy posting his life story on the internet, but I guess when you've been through hell, you just need to get all out. So here I am. My name's Gary. 2 years ago, I caught my wife cheating. I left her that same night and never looked back. Or at least, I thought I never looked back. Turns out, some ghosts don't stay buried. It was a Friday. I had just gotten home from a long shift, exhausted, starving, ready to unwind. My wife, Rachel, was on a business trip. Or so she said. She had a big corporate job, traveled often, and while I never liked the time apart, I trusted her. Or at least, I used to. I was microwaving leftovers when my phone buzzed. A text from my buddy, Mike. Hey man, you busy? Mike was one of those guys who never texted unless something was up. Before I could even respond, he called. Gary, listen, where's Rachel? His voice was weird. Stressed. On a trip. Why? Silence. Then, dude, she's at O'Malley's. O'Malley's. Our local bar. The one we always went to together. My stomach dropped. What? She's here. With some guy. And, man, I don't know how to say this. Say it. They're kissing. The microwave beeped, but I barely heard it. My hands were already grabbing my keys. Mike, you sure it's hers? My heart was hammering. Yes. She's in that green dress you got her for her birthday. I hung up. Drove like a madman. By the time I got to O'Malley's, I felt sick. My wife, the woman I had loved for years, the one I thought was miles away in another city, was here, doing God knows what. I parked, stormed inside, and there she was. Rachel, sitting in a dimly lit corner booth, leaning into some guy, her hand on his arm, giggling like a teenager. And then, right as I laid eyes on her, she kissed him. My legs felt like lead. My mind blanked, but my body moved. I walked straight up to them, and when she finally noticed me standing there, her face drained of color. Gary, she started, but I didn't let her finish. I turned to the guy, some slick-looking corporate type. You know she's married? I asked, my voice eerily calm. His eyes flicked between me and Rachel. She said. Rachel grabbed my arm. It's not what it looks like. I yanked away. Not what it looks like. So you weren't just kissing this guy. Her mouth opened and closed. No words. Just guilt. I looked at the guy again. Get out of my sight before I do something we'll both regret. He bolted. Coward. Rachel reached for me again. Tears forming. Gary, please. I stepped back. Took one last look at the woman I had shared my life with. And then, without another word, I walked out. I went home, packed a bag, and left. That was the night I stopped being Rachel's husband. I drove around for hours that night. Didn't go home. Didn't go to a friend's place. Just drove. My hands were gripping the wheel, so hard they hurt. My mind was blank, yet racing at the same time. By the time I pulled up to my brother's place, it was nearly 2 a.m. He answered the door, half asleep, rubbing his eyes. Gary, what the hell, man? I just stood there, staring at him. I must have looked like a ghost. Rachel cheated, I finally said. That woke him up fast. His face twisted in confusion, then anger. No? No way. Saw it with my own eyes. I walked past him into the living room, sat on the couch, and buried my face in my hands. He sat beside me, silent for a long time. Then, you leaving her? I exhaled, nodded. Already packed a bag. That was all he said, and honestly, I appreciated it. No, are you sure? No, maybe you should talk to her. Just support. We sat in silence for a while before I finally passed out on his couch. The morning after. When I woke up, my phone had about 20 missed calls from Rachel. A dozen texts. Gary, please come home. We need to talk. It was a mistake, I swear. I didn't sleep with him. I love you. Please don't do this. Just let me explain. Same old script. I didn't reply. Then she started calling my brother's phone. Man, you need to deal with this, he grumbled, handing it to me. I stared at the screen. Rachel. I hesitated, but I picked up. Gary. Her voice was shaky. I didn't say anything. Please. Just talk to me. So, I did. I let her speak. I let her fumble through excuse after excuse. It was just a kiss. It didn't mean anything. I was drunk. He came onto me first. I was lonely because of all your work. Every single word made my stomach turn. And then she said the one thing that sent me over the edge. You're really gonna throw everything away over one mistake? I laughed. Actually laughed. I'm throwing it away. Gary, please. I hung up. Blocked her number. That was the moment I knew. I was done. I wish that had been the end of it. I wish blocking her number had just made her disappear from my life. But if you've ever dealt with a cheater, you know they don't go down that easy. Rachel wasn't done. Not by a long shot. For the next week, she went on a full-blown damage control tour. First, she started with mutual friends. The sob story must have been award-winning because I started getting texts. Gary, man, I heard what happened. Are you sure you don't want to at least talk to her? Dude, she's a wreck. Maybe hear her out. Okay, what she did was bad, but divorce. Isn't that extreme? Extreme. She lied to my face. She betrayed me. She disrespected our marriage. And I'm the extreme one. At first, I ignored them. But when one of my closest friends, Mark, called me up, I finally answered. Dude, I just don't get it, he said. She kissed a guy. It's not like she slept with him. I gripped the phone tighter. So, if your wife made out with a dude at a bar, you'd be cool with it. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Silence. That's what I thought. I said, and I hung up. I wasn't going to sit around and argue about what level of cheating I was supposed to tolerate. I wasn't playing Rachel's game. Next, she went after my family. She must have been desperate, because she actually tried calling my mom. My mom. And of course, my mom, being the kind-hearted woman she is, felt bad for her. She sounded so sad, Gary. She told me over the phone. She said she just wants to fix things. Mom, she cheated on me, I said, rubbing my temples. I know. She sighed. But marriage is hard. Are you sure this is what you want? I was done. Completely done. Yes, Mom. I'm sure. And that was it. I texted Rachel one last time. You talked to my family again, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did. Don't contact me ever again. Blocked her everywhere. At least, I thought that was the last I'd hear from her. But like I said, cheaters don't go down that easy. I thought blocking Rachel would be enough. I thought after a week of silence, she'd finally get the message. But nope. Instead, she played her final, desperate card. She showed up at my job. It was a normal day. I was halfway through my shift when one of my coworkers, Dave, nudged me. Dude, there's a woman in the lobby asking for you. And she looks kinda emotional. I didn't even have to ask. I already knew. When I got to the lobby, there she was, Rachel, standing by the entrance, arms crossed, eyes red like she'd been crying. She looked up, and the second she saw me, the waterworks started again. Gary, she whispered, like some scene out of a tragic romance movie. I turned to the receptionist. You let her in. The poor guy looked terrified. She, said it was an emergency. I sighed, then looked back at Rachel. You need to leave. She stepped closer. Not until you hear me out. I laughed. You think ambushing me at work is going to fix this? Please, Gary. Just 5 minutes. I should have walked away. I wanted to walk away, but she was causing a scene, and the last thing I needed was my boss getting involved. So I gave her 5 minutes. The same tired excuses. We went outside, and she immediately grabbed my hands. I pulled away. Rachel, I don't know what else you want from me. It's over. She shook her head. I need you to know the truth. Oh, the truth. I crossed my arms. Like how you were supposed to be in another city, but you were actually making out with some guy at a bar. Tears welled in her eyes again. I was drunk. I made a stupid mistake. But I never slept with him, Gary. I swear. It was just a kiss. Yeah, you keep saying that like it makes a difference. She took a deep breath. I was feeling neglected. I laughed. You're seriously gonna blame me? No. She wiped her tears. I was lonely, Gary. You've been working so much, and I felt like I was losing you. That night, I drank too much, and when he kissed me, you kissed him back. Her lip trembled. I regret it so much. I love you. I only want you. Please, just give me a chance to make this right. I stared at her. This woman, the woman I had loved, the woman I had built a life with, was standing there looking at me like I was supposed to pity her, like I was supposed to fix the mess she made. I took a step closer and lowered my voice. If you really loved me, you wouldn't have put me in this position in the first place. Rachel's face crumbled. I turned and walked back inside. She didn't follow. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. After Rachel showed up at my job, I figured that was it. She had played every card in her deck: manipulation, guilt, sob stories. What else could she do? Turns out, she wasn't the only problem. I started losing friends. At first, it was subtle. A few people stopped texting. Plans got canceled. Then I noticed certain people, mutual friends, weren't talking to me at all. Even Mark, the guy who had already tried downplaying what Rachel did, went radio silent. I didn't think much of it until Mike, the same buddy who had told me about Rachel's affair, called me up. "Man, have you talked to Mart lately?" he asked. "No." "Why?" Mike sighed. "He's been talking to Rachel." I sat up straight. "What?" "Yeah, a few of them have." "Why the hell would they do that?" Mike hesitated. "Because she's telling people her version of what happened." I gritted my teeth. "And what exactly is her version?" Mike cleared his throat. "She's saying you abandoned her, that you just packed your bags and left without even talking to her, that you're overreacting because it was just one kiss." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She cheated, and I'm the villain. She's also saying you were never home, that you put work above your marriage, and that she was lonely. My jaw clenched. "So it's my fault now." "Look, man, I'm just telling you what's being said." I rubbed my face. "And people are actually buying this. Some are, some aren't. But Mark, yeah, he's eating it up." That pissed me off. Mark had been one of my closest friends for years, and now he was siding with her. I hung up with Mike and immediately called Mark. No answer. I texted him. "So, you're taking Rachel's side now?" Left on read. That told me everything I needed to know. A surprise ally. Not long after, I got a message from someone unexpected. Rachel's best friend, Lisa. "Hey, Gary, can we talk?" I stared at the text for a while before finally replying. "Why?" "Because I think you should know what Rachel's been saying about you." I called her immediately. Lisa didn't waste time. "She's lying, Gary. About everything." I figured, I muttered. "But what exactly is she saying?" Lisa sighed. "She's making herself the victim. Telling people you were emotionally distant, that you didn't care about her anymore, that she felt single even though she was married. That's why she messed up." I laughed bitterly. "Unbelievable. And she's making it sound like you just up and disappeared on her. Like you didn't even give her a chance to explain." "Oh, she explained all right," I said. "And all she did was make excuses." Lisa hesitated. "Gary, she is sorry. I know that doesn't mean much, but I think she's really struggling." I exhaled. "Yeah. Well, that's not my problem anymore." Lisa was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that caught me off guard. "I never liked the guy she kissed." I blinked. "Wait, you knew him?" "Yeah. He works at her company, and honestly, I always got bad vibes from him. Like he was just waiting for the right moment to make a move." I gritted my teeth. "And Rachel let him." Lisa sighed. "I don't expect you to forgive her, and honestly, I wouldn't either. But I just wanted you to know not everyone is buying her crap." That was the first time I felt like I wasn't completely alone in this. Rachel could spin her lies all she wanted. She could rewrite history to make herself look better. But the truth always comes out. 2 years passed. I moved on. Or at least, I tried to. I focused on work, picked up new hobbies, and started rebuilding my life from the ground up. I even dated a little, though nothing ever stuck. And Rachel, I didn't hear from her. Not once. Not until that night at the pub. It was a regular Friday night. I had gone out with some coworkers for a couple of drinks, just unwinding after a long week. I wasn't thinking about Rachel. I wasn't thinking about the past. I was just enjoying myself. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw her, Rachel. She was sitting at the bar, alone, staring into her drink. At first, I wasn't even sure it was her. She looked different, smaller, somehow, like the confident, put-together woman I had married had been hollowed out. I could have ignored her, should have ignored her. But then, I saw the two guys. They were standing near her, whispering to each other, smirking. I didn't like the way they were looking at her. And when one of them made his move, leaning in, placing a hand on her shoulder, I knew I couldn't just sit there. I got up, walked over. "Hey, babe," I said casually, sliding into the seat next to her. "Sorry, I'm late." Rachel's head snapped up, eyes wide in shock. The guy backed off instantly. "Oh, man," he muttered. "Didn't know she was taken." "She is," I said flatly. "Now, if you'll excuse us." They left. Rachel just sat there, staring at me like she had seen a ghost. "Gary." I stood up. "Be careful who you drink around." Then I walked away. I thought that would be the end of it. But the next morning, there was a letter at my door. From Rachel. The letter. "Gary, I don't know if you even care to read this, but after last night, I couldn't just walk away again. I don't deserve your kindness. I don't deserve the way you helped me, even after everything I did to you. But I need you to know the truth. I ruined everything. I know that now. And I hate myself for it. When I lost you, I thought I'd be okay. I told myself I'd move on, that you were overreacting, that I didn't deserve to be treated like a villain for one mistake. But I was lying to myself. And I kept lying to everyone, because it was easier than admitting the truth. I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. And no matter how much time passes, no one will ever compare to you. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, truly. And if I could take it all back, I would. Rachel." I read it twice. Then I set it down. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I just felt nothing. I had already moved on. After reading Rachel's letter, I didn't know what to feel. Not anger, not sadness, just emptiness. 2 years ago, that letter might have broken me. But now, it felt like too little. Too late. I didn't respond. But Rachel wasn't done. The second encounter. A week after I got the letter, I ran into her again. This time, it wasn't by chance. It was late evening, and I had just gotten home from work. As I stepped out of my car, I saw someone sitting on my front steps. Rachel. She looked up, nervous, clutching her purse like it was holding her together. "I know you got my letter," she said softly. "And I know you didn't want to respond. But I just needed to see you. One last time." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Rachel." "Please, Gary," she interrupted. "Just 5 minutes. That's all I ask." I considered telling her to leave, but part of me wanted to hear what she had to say, if only to close this chapter for good. I stepped past her and unlocked my door. 5 minutes, I said, walking inside. She hesitated, then followed. The confession. Rachel sat on my couch, looking around like she was stepping into a life she no longer belonged in. I didn't sit. I just stood there, arms crossed, waiting. She took a deep breath. I lied. I raised an eyebrow. About what? Gonna be specific. She winced, then nodded. I didn't just kiss him, Gary. I felt my chest tighten, but I didn't react. Go on. She swallowed hard. That night, I let things go further than I told you. We didn't have full-on sex, but it wasn't just a kiss. A bitter laugh escaped me. Took you 2 years to admit that. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. I was too ashamed, she whispered. And I was afraid that if I told the truth, you'd hate me even more. I shook my head. Rachel, I didn't need a full confession to hate what you did. The moment I saw you with him, you were already dead to me. She flinched like I had slapped her. I know, she whispered, and I don't blame you. There was a long silence. Then she said the words I knew were coming. I still love you. I closed my eyes, exhaling sharply. Rachel, I know I don't deserve another chance, she cut in. But I had to try. Losing you was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I thought I could move on. I tried. But no one else is you. I finally sat down, rubbing my temples. Rachel, why are you here? She hesitated. I don't know. Maybe just to hear you say that there's no hope, that it's really over. I looked her dead in the eyes. It's over. She nodded, biting her lip hard. Then, barely above a whisper, do you think you'll ever forgive me? I thought about that. Really thought about it. Then I shrugged. Maybe. But even if I do, it won't change anything. Rachel wiped her eyes, gave me a shaky nod, then stood up. Okay, she murmured. She walked to the door, hesitated, then turned one last time. If you ever change your mind, she whispered. I didn't answer. I just watched as she walked out my house, out of my life, one final time. And for the first time since that night at O'Malley's, I felt free. After Rachel left my house that night, I expected that to be the end of it. I had shut the door on her, literally and figuratively. There was nothing left to say. But just when I thought I had finally put it all behind me, she found a way back in. The email. About a month later, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line, just a single message. Gary, please read this. I swear it's not another attempt to beg for you back. Just hear me out. I hesitated before opening the attachment. It was a scanned document, a legal one. I skimmed through it, and my heart nearly stopped. Rachel was offering me half of her savings. Why would she do this? I sat back, stunned. Rachel had always made more money than me. She had a high-paying corporate job, while I worked in a field I loved but wasn't exactly rolling in cash. During our marriage, we kept separate accounts, but she had significantly more tucked away than I did. And now, she was offering me a lump sum of money as some kind of, I don't even know, guilt payment. I replied, Rachel, what is this? She responded almost immediately. It's what I should have given you during the divorce. I was selfish back then, but I want to do the right thing now. I didn't buy it. Rachel, this is a lot of money. Why now? Because I owe you. Because I need to know that I tried to make things right, even if it's too late. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I sat there, staring at my screen, completely unsure of what to do. Was this a trap? I called my brother. Dude, don't touch that money, he said immediately. It's shady. I mean, legally, she can do this, I said. It's just a transfer. No strings. No strings. He scoffed. Come on, man. She's been trying to win you back for months. You really think this is just a clean slate thing? He had a point. But at the same time, I wasn't about to turn down money that I rightfully deserved. During our marriage, I had contributed in ways that weren't financial, supporting her career, picking up slack when she was busy, making sacrifices so she could climb the ladder. And when we split, she got to keep everything. Maybe this was her conscience finally catching up to her. My decision. After a long debate with myself, I sent one final email. I'll accept it. But once the money is transferred, I don't want to hear from you again. Ever. Her reply came quickly. Understood. 3 days later, the money hit my account. And just like that, Rachel was gone from my life. No more texts. No more letters. No more chance encounters. For the first time in 2 years, it was really over. After Rachel transferred the money, I thought that was it. No more texts. No more emails. No more unwanted encounters. For the first time in years, my life felt normal, peaceful, like I had finally outrun the past. But peace never lasts long, does it? Running into a ghost. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. I had just finished grocery shopping when I saw her. Not Rachel. Her sister, Emily. We hadn't spoken since the divorce. She was younger than Rachel, always had a sharp tongue, and back when we were married, she and I had actually gotten along pretty well. She was one of the few people in Rachel's family who had taken my side when everything went down. So when she spotted me and marched straight over, I expected maybe a casual, hey, how have you been? Instead, she hit me with, why did you take the money? I blinked. Excuse me. Emily crossed her arms. Rachel told me she transferred you half her savings. And you actually took it. I frowned. Yeah. Why wouldn't I? Because she thought it would make her feel better, Emily snapped. She thought if she paid you back, it would give her some kind of closure. And you just let her do it. I laughed, shaking my head. Let me get this straight. You're mad that I took money that I actually deserved. That's not the point, she said. The point is, she's still miserable, Gary. She hasn't moved on. And I think part of her hoped that if she did this, you'd see that she's changed. I sighed. Emily, I don't care what she hoped for. I told her the money didn't change anything. Emily exhaled sharply, looking frustrated. Then, to my surprise, her expression softened. You know, she said quieter now. For the longest time, I thought you guys were perfect together. So did I muttered. She hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. She wrote you another letter. I groaned. Emily. She asked me to give it to you weeks ago, but I didn't think you'd want it. And honestly, you probably don't. But I'm giving it to you anyway. What you do with it is up to you. She placed the envelope in my grocery bag and walked off before I could argue. I sighed, shaking my head. I should have thrown it away. Instead, that damn envelope sat on my counter for days. And eventually, I opened it. That damn envelope sat on my counter for 3 days. I told myself I wouldn't open it. What was the point? Rachel had already said everything there was to say. Taking her money wasn't some invitation to reconnect. It was closure. Nothing more. But still it sat there. And on the third night, after a couple of drinks, I gave in. The letter. Gary, I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe because I have no one else to talk to. Maybe because I still love you. Maybe because I just need you to know how much I hate myself for everything I did. I thought that giving you the money would make me feel lighter, that it would let me sleep better at night. It didn't. If anything, I feel worse. Because now there's nothing left. No excuses. No loose ends. Just the truth. And the truth is I ruined my own life. I've tried moving on, but no one else is you. No one else makes me feel the way you did. I go on dates, I meet people, I pretend I'm okay, but I always come back to this empty feeling inside me. And I know it's my fault. I know I don't deserve to be happy after what I did to you. I think about that night at O'Malley's every day. About how you looked at me when you caught me. Like I was a stranger. Like I had already died in your eyes. That moment haunts me. I wish I could go back and undo it all. I wish I had never gone on that trip. I wish I had never let myself get close to him. I wish I had never let myself believe the lie that I was missing something in our marriage when, in reality, I had everything I ever needed. I know you'll never take me back. I know you don't love me anymore. But I just need you to know, I never stopped loving you. And I never will. Rachel. My reaction. I sat there, staring at the letter. And for the first time since the divorce, I felt nothing but pity. Not for myself. Not for what I had lost. For her. Because Rachel had finally realized the truth. Too late. And unlike me, she would never move on. I folded the letter, set it back in the envelope, and without another thought, I threw it in the trash. After throwing Rachel's letter in the trash, I expected some kind of feeling. Relief, satisfaction, something. But all I felt was done. No more anger. No more questions. No more wondering what if. Rachel had finally admitted the truth, but it didn't change a thing. I had already grieved this relationship. I had already rebuilt my life. She was stuck in the past. I wasn't. For the first time in years. I felt completely free. A few weeks passed. Life moved on. Then one night, I was out with friends when someone mentioned her name. Did you hear about Rachel? I barely reacted. What about her? She quit her job. Moved out of state. That caught my attention. Seriously. My friend nodded. Yeah. Lisa told me. Said Rachel wanted a fresh start. I just shrugged. Good for her. And for the first time, I actually meant it. One night, I sat outside on my porch, just thinking. 2 years ago, Rachel had destroyed my world. Back then, I thought I'd never recover. Never trust again. Never feel normal. But here I was. Whole. Happy. Free. I didn't regret leaving. I didn't regret blocking her out. The only thing I regretted that I ever wasted my love on someone who never deserved it. Months passed. Rachel was nothing more than a distant memory. Then, one night, I got a friend request. Rachel. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then, without hesitation, declined. No second thoughts. No curiosity. No regrets. She was my past, and I had no interest in looking back. One evening, I sat at my usual coffee shop, lost in thought. Not about Rachel. Not about the past. Just life. The future. What's next? For the first time in years, I wasn't haunted by what had happened. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was just at peace. Rachel was gone. The betrayal was behind me. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to move forward.